Hey kids, I know that you think it's National Tell a Story Day, and it is. But guess what yesterday was? It was National Tell a Story Day. And guess what tomorrow is? It is National Tell a Story Day. So every single day, I would love to tell you a story. But what I want you to do is to read a story every single day. And since I know that you just promised me that, I am going to read to you today my very first graphic novel. This is number one in a series of 8, and you will be seeing the pictures, and I will be reading the copy and making some extra comments that you don't see in the book. So I'm going to start right now with the cover of James Bone, the first book, book number 1 of the series called James Bone, 007 years old, licensed to dig. So let's look at the cover together because the story sort of starts there and I want to introduce the characters. First, you'll see up in the right corner, you'll see a dinosaur with stuff on its back. That is Dinodrome. You'll see Dinodrome in all the books. He comes in handy. Then you see the title, James Bone, 007, licensed to dig. There are a lot of puns in the book. If you don't know what a pun is, ask your teacher or your parent. And if you don't know who James Bone is, meaning James Bond, then ask an adult too. Right in the middle, you'll see James. He's got on his favorite t-shirt that says, I dig dirt. And then you see Shovel, his best friend, who is part of every single story. And Pick, who was his other best friend, who will be in all the books. And down a little bit below, you'll see Diggy, the dog, his favorite pet, and goes on all the adventures with them. Near the bottom, you'll see a dinosaur who's saying, you can call me Al. You'll see Dr. Archaeologist, who James' mom sends along on the trips because to keep an eye on James and his friends, to keep them out of trouble. But guess what? He doesn't do a very good job at all. And then you'll see Bonehead. And I won't tell you much about Bonehead. You'll meet Bonehead in a minute. And you'll see a little pink dinosaur. He's called Pink. And he says, scary. And up at the top of the book in the title, you'll see Green. He's called Green in the book, and he has more things to say. But the title of book number 1 is The Awesome Allosaurus Adventure. Hey, look, it's got my name on it, Carole Marsh. And it's got another person's name on there, Lee Barrow, who did all the fabulous art that you will see. He and I both love dinosaurs. I hope you can tell that. Okay, let's turn the page. This page is the James Stone backstory. So you know a little bit about James, since in a graphic novel, there aren't a lot of words. And so I had to get this started off where you could meet and see what's going on. This says, once upon a time, Mr. and Mrs. Bone had a baby boy. They named him James Bone, James Bone. James calls his mother Mommy Penny because she once gave him a lucky penny. And that shows up in one of the books too. Mommy Penny is a paleontologist. Her special fossil focus is dinosaurs. Dr. Benjamin Bone, James's father, was also a paleontologist. Unfortunately, he died in a tragic accident on a dig site when James was just a baby. But James always feels like his dad is somehow looking out for him. And if you look at the bottom of the page on the right, you'll see this sort of ghostly figure with a smile saying, watch for me, keeping an eye out on James. As a single mom, Mommy Penny has to work on weekends too. To keep James and his friends and dog busy, she always gives them a special assignment on Friday nights. But they have to get back home by Sunday night so they can go to school Monday morning. After all, that's show and tell day. So you'll see the letter on Mommy Penny's very special letterhead that she has given to James for this week's assignment. And it says, James, your big dig gig assignment this week. You and your friends drop in on the dinosaur Badlands. See if you can find an Allosaurus fossil. As always, a small bone will do. However, you just never know what you might find. Be careful. Be home by Sunday night. And really, James, try not to get so dirty, will you? Good luck with that, huh? Okay, let's move on to page 3. Now we're looking at James's bedroom. You can see he's all about dinosaurs all the time. He's got a dino bedspread. He has bone sheets. He's got a "Can You Dig It" poster over his bed, an "I Heart Dino" thing hanging up there, a roaring dinosaur. It's just all dinos all the time at James's house. So here we go. James is reading Mommy Penny's letter, the assignment, and he says, "This will be a piece of cake, easy peasy." On the bed, you'll see that Green says, "We get to tag along," and Pink says, "Probably not." Shovel is really eager to go. She says, "Come on, James, Pick's leaving us in the dust." And Pick says, "Woohoo, here I go." And you'll see in the book, there's lots of sound effects. So rumble, rumble, pretty cool to have a trap door in your bedroom, isn't it? And Diggy's raring to go too. So we'll turn the page and see where they go. More sound effects. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. I guess that's a sound that happens when you fall through a trap door. Green says, "You," and Pink says, "Pushed me." So they often debate throughout this book. Of course, James loves this. "Wee," he says. And all of a sudden, they land at the bottom of the page. "Hey, Dr. Archaeologist is here to meet us." Say that fast 3 times. "Diggy, don't shake," says Shovel, because Diggy, as usual, is shaking sand all over the place. You can't go to a desert where there's not sand, and that's Diggy's job. James grumbles, sand got in my boots again." And then here's a sign that says, "Beware. This is the Badlands." Now, the Badlands is a real place. Get out your map, get out your atlas, and look it up. Dr. Archaeologist is there and says, "Don't get excited. I'm off to the meeting in a minute," because really they want Dr. Archaeologist to go away so they can always solve the mystery or whatever's going on by themselves. But Pink and Green know better. And Green says, "More like off to a nap." And Pink says, "Zzz." He's heard Dr. Archaeologist snore before. Okay, top of page 5. "What's Mommy Penny got you searching for this time?" asked Dr. Archaeologist. Pick says, "Bones." Dr. Archie says, "No lack of bones in this dino graveyard." There's a sign that talks about the graveyard. Population, 0 people, 15 million fossils. Then there's another sign that says Jurassic Badlands Boneyard, and a museum, of course. And Dr. Archie says, this is James. "Not any old bones. We are searching for Allosaurus." But Shovel says, "How will we know when we find it?" And Pink and Green are curious. They're like, "What's that furry thing?" I don't think they've seen a puppy dog before. At the bottom of the page, they're in the museum. They see the Allosaurus who lived the late Jurassic era. And James says, "Whoa, I don't think we brought a big enough backpack." And of course, Shovel's excited because she says, "We found one. We found Allosaurus already." Dr. Archie's always explaining things. Fierce predator, holy skull, sawtooth teeth. And then he adds, "I don't think your mom expects you to find an entire Allosaurus skeleton, maybe just a teeny tiny sliver of bone." And of course, Diggy says, "Bones?" Diggy loves bones. Okay, turn to page 6. There's a lot going on up here at the top of the page. Let's see what order I can read it in that makes any sense. There's a rule about a graphic novel, that there are no rules. You can read anything in any order that you want. So don't feel like you have to struggle with that. You can see the kids up at the top of the page and Dr. Archie too, and Diggy too. And somebody says, what we need to find is out there somewhere. No worries, mates, says Dr. Archie. This site is the biggest pile of dino bones ever found. 12,000 discovered so far. Whole skeletons, even eggs. 74 different kinds of dinos, most of them carnivores. I think it's Pick that says, biggest cars? And Dr. Archie explains, no, meat eaters. And Pick says, but I'm meat. And somebody up there says, you wouldn't even make a dino snack, Pick. Now, Toodles, I'll be off. So they got rid of Dr. Archaeologist. Even the dinosaur Green is a little worried. He says, what about me? I don't think he wants to be a meat eater. But Pink says, you look like a leaf eater. And then here's a new character that's in some of the books, Frenchie the scorpion. Often in deserts on dig sites, you might find scorpions. And Frenchie is singing, Allosaurus, awesome Allosaurus, Allosaurus, wonder where it is. At the bottom of the page, James reads a sign. It's all Allosaurus all the time, folks. Lived 150 million years ago, Jurassic era. Habitat, open woodlands. Length, 39 feet. That's pretty big. That's 11.88 meters, if you care. And Pick says, oh, he doesn't sound so scary. But Shovel says, don't be so sure. Look. And so if we turn to page 7, we see a big old dinosaur, an Allosaurus. He's pretty big. I don't know how scary he is. I think he thinks he's cool because he's wearing a headband and he's singing, I was born in the Badlands. I was born in the Badlands. Hopefully he's singing it in tune more than I do. Here's the sign, more information. 70 knife-edged teeth, 3 sharp hooked claws on each hand, strong toes that helped it chase prey, long legs for speed, giant jaw, could open its mouth really wide. And you see the dentist down there giving the dino an exam, and she says, that's some serious bad breath, Al. Green up on top of the sign says, how's my breath? And Pink says, bad to the bone. Oh, Pick's so worried. He says, I pray we are not prey. But Shovel says, I'll bet dino dentists get paid big bucks. I would too. And Diggy's still in search of bones. He says, can you dig it? Okay, let's turn the page, see what happens on page 8. You know, sometimes I write the book and I forget what happens. So I'm excited to see what happens next. I'm already on book 4. Okay, top of the page. James says, don't be scared, Pick. The only things left of Allosaurus are bones. And Pick's looking down in that big hole and says, where? I think that's their problem. They always don't have very much time. They got to find their bone and get back home. You see Diggy and Shovel sliding down the sand. Pink says, are we taking a trip? And Green says, see you next fall. On the left side, you'll see everybody falling down. We yay, whatever. Okay. And at the bottom, what are those things in the background? I hope we learn it in a minute. Pick says, was that geology? And James says, no, that was gravity. And Shovel says, we landed in a dino death pit. That doesn't sound good, does it? Okay, on page 9, it might be worse than a dino death pit. James says, looks like the mother lode of coprolites. Dino doo-doo. And Shovel says, dino poop, are you serious? And James says, serious as a hungry Allosaurus. These are probably fossilized dino droppings. And I guess that's what they look like. Pick says, I'm not sticking my pick in poop. And then in this little box down there, they're having a discussion. Shovel says, that's not what Mommy Penny said to come back with, right? James says, no, she has a no poop rule. We'll just find a small bone if we can. And Pick has a good idea, or buy a fake one in the gift shop. Unless a dino follows us home, Shovel says, we'll just take a snapshot, guys. Okay, now at the bottom of page 9, here comes trouble. Shovel says, uh-oh, James, there's our nemesis, Bonehead. Pick says, maybe an Allosaurus will eat him. But Shovel goes, Pick. And then you see this guy, Bonehead, on his own little ATV with a suspicious tarp on the back. Dum, da, dum, dum. Let's turn the page. Page 10 at the top. Bonehead says, I see you kids are on a wild goose chase. I mean a wild poop chase. Ha, ha, ha. But James is suspicious. What you got under that tarp, Bonehead? Green says, it's Bonehead. I think he's seen him before. And Pink says, more like Numbskull. At the bottom, they're all coughing from the dust as Bonehead rears off. That's for me to know and you not to find out, James. On page 11, James says, ignore him. Think about the puzzled paleos who first found this place. In the 1920s, someone just stumbled on the string of skeletons starting to stick out of the primordial muck. Once this was a lush forest, tall trees and ponds, Allosaurus was alive and on the hunt. And Pick goes, huh? A lot of words, huh? What happened to them? James says at the bottom, it's a mystery. No one knows for sure. But then there's a lot of splashing and crashing. And Pick says, are you sure they're all gone? Because I hear a noise. Okay, let's see what the noise is on page 12. Okay, flash flood, gully washer, yikes, whoa, oh no. Everybody's just going around in circles, as you can see, and Dino Drone's bringing a life preserver, and James says, holding on to a bone with Diggy on top, I'm shaken, but not stirred. And Frenchie down in the corner says, just chilling. And I believe that Pink says, I see, S-E-A, I see you. And Green says, that's a poor, P-O-U-R, joke. That's a poor joke. I guess I wrote that poor joke. Page 14. Here they are. Back on dry ground. We're safe, says James. We're wet, says Shovel. Let's have a picnic, says Pick, who's always thinking about food. No time, Pick. Let's dig. Time is running out. They haven't accomplished anything yet except to get wet and run around. Here they are digging in the middle of the page. Ugh, says Pick. Oof, says James, down in a hole trying to get dirt out. Ah, woo, says Shovel, wiping sweat off her brow. Diggy's digging like dogs do, but he's not making much progress either. Green says, you're no help. And Pink says, my arms are tiny. Down at the bottom, somebody else is making a lot more progress. Bonehead, whose truck, backhoe, digger, whatever it is, says, honk if you're a bone. And it's going chug, chug, chug in a place that says, no trespassing, keep out, hazardous. And you see the whir of the drone coming. But Bonehead's not worried. He just goes, ha, 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 ha. Page 15, top of page 15. I can't dig another hole, says Shovel. Maybe the flood washed all the bones away. I think Pick hopes so. But James says, look, the dino drone, it must have a message. Buzz, buzz, the dino drone's on top of James' head. I think it gave James the message, because here comes cop cars. Here's Dr. Archaeologist. He says, kids, Bonehead is nabbing all the bones. And Pink and Green say, uh-oh. Down at the bottom, there are the park rangers. They say, there's the criminal, get him. And Bonehead, with an armful of bones, goes, oops. But he's running off. He thinks he's going to escape. What do you think? Let's go to page 16 and see. Okay, now Dr. Archaeologist has got his own ATV, and they're all piled in there. And James says, get him. And Frenchie says, this is a sting, Bonehead. And James says, we can't let him get away, Dr. Archie. Mommy Penny is counting on us. And then down at the bottom and all around, you see all kind of things going on. Pick says, I'll fist bump you, Bonehead. And James says, you'll never get away with this. And Diggy says, I can't wait to take a bite out of Bonehead. There's some kind of critter stuck to the bottom of the ATV. I think it might be, I don't know if that's an aardvark or a armadillo or something, but it says incoming. The bird says, stop. It's afraid it's fixing to get run over. And this sign says Allosaurus Airport. I guess that's where Bonehead's trying to get away. But the drone says, don't mess with this drone. And Bonehead's just try to stop me, he says. Of course, this bird says, what's a drone? Because it's never seen one. And Green says, duck, and Pink says, cover. So let's see if Bonehead gets away. Page 18. He lost his tarp. That's what Pick says. Smash, crash. And Bonehead says, oh, rats. And James says, sort of in relief, I think, Bonehead's down. At the bottom of the page, James says, well, we got Bonehead, but we didn't get our bone. Hey, said the park ranger, stop. They're after him. Diggy's sniffing that tarp, wondering what's under there. And Shovel's pondering some bones and says, what kind of dino does this bone belong to? Maybe there's hope yet. Next page, page 19. Dr. Archie's trying to console them. Don't be so disappointed, James. You tried to find your Allosaurus. Well, I don't know what these are, but I guess one of them will do, James says, looking at all this pile of bones. Shovel has a good idea. Let's pick them up and return them to the ranger. And Pick is disappointed. He just says, phooey. And Green says, how many bones are there? And Pink says, a skeleton, a ton of bones. But Diggy's pulling that tarp off. And then all the bones come loose. And at the bottom of page 19, you see them sort of focused on the bones, but you see Diggy busy up there. And then Pick notices and says, guys, let's see what he noticed. And of course, Frenchie's down there reading a book called Allosaurus Antics. Okay, look at there. Look what Diggy did. I think Diggy put together a giant Allosaurus skeleton. You can never give up, can you? The Allosaurus skeleton says, I'm all yours, James. And Drone is pulling a banner that says, we did it. The cops are over there, the rangers with Bonehead, and they say, I have a bone to pick with you. But Bonehead complains, no fair. You picked all my bones. And Dr. Archie says, no bones about it. Everybody's happy. And down at the bottom, James says, I always get my bone. And you see Diggy wink, because Diggy knows how he got the bone this time. Green says, can we go home? And Pink says, now. We'll see. But if you look at page 21, first they have to celebrate, of course. They go to the Dino Diner, and you'll see from the menu, there are all kinds of things they can order. Pterodactyl pancakes, Albert broccoli salad, fossil fries, Stegosaurus something, Spinosaurus something, Paleo something, Badlands something, There's a blue dino in the way, so I can't read it all. Neither can you. But here's a guy in a tuxedo. I wonder who he is. He's got him a cup of hot coffee. We haven't seen him before in the book, have we? He says shaken, not stirred, please. You'll find him in all the books. Dr. Archie says, dig in. We see poor Bonehead hungry out there looking in the window. Shovel says she's on a paleo diet. And Pick says, I'll have a side of Albertosaurus broccoli. That's a mouthful. We see the diner waitress, Bev, in her apron. Diggy says, do I smell fried dino? And up on top of the jukebox, Pink is going, shake, rattle, and roll. And Green says, I said, shake, rattle, and roll. And so they're all having a great time. They're so happy. They got their big dinosaur. They've got some great things to eat. And are they going home? Do they get back on time on Sunday night? Let's find out. They must, because on page 22, here they are at the all-important show and tell. Even the teacher even says, time for show and tell. Do you like show and tell? I always loved show and tell, but I never had a dino bone to show. Hi, kids. Allosaurus sticks his head in the window and says, James is showing off. You can see the big old tooth. He says it's whatever he's told them, then he tells them it's the tooth, the whole tooth, and nothing but the tooth. There's a whole lot of applause from all the classmates. And Green reminds us all, listen to your English teacher. And Pink says, because she's always right, W-R-I-T-E. On the last page, we see that they're all home. James is in his room, looking out the window on a starry night. He's probably dirty, even though Penny said, don't get dirty. He's telling the folks down below, sleep good, guys. Next week's another adventure. And down below in the backyard, we see Allosaurus saying, home, sweet home, reading a 100 Dino Bios book. We see Diggy, happy as a lark in his doghouse, saying, guard dog, guard dino. He's got him a little help, huh? Look at that. The blue bowl says Diggy and the big bowl says Al. Green tells Al, you forgot something. And Green says this, and it's his big old toothbrush. Somehow, I'm not sure Allosaurus is going to use that thing. And over in the corner, you can barely see Frenchie, but he says, he has a little flower. I think it's for Al. And he says, all's well that ends well. So that must tell us that that's the end of book 1 in the James Bone series. I hope you enjoyed that reading. I'm glad I got through it. I never read a graphic novel before. It's a little confusing. My head's a little bit spinning, but not so much that I can't tell you about book 2. Book 2 is James Bone, The Tremendous Triceratops Trek. The Tremendous Triceratops Trek. That's an alliterative mouthful. This takes place in the winter, coal at another dig site, and it's really exciting. I'm looking at the pages. I wish I could show you, but I can't because you'll have to read the book. Speaking of books, let me tell you one last thing. The names of all the 8 books, because everybody has a favorite dinosaur. Maybe yours is Allosaurus. Maybe yours is Triceratops. But book 3 is the Roaring Tyrannosaurus Rex Romp. So T-Rex, if you like T-Rex, you're going to see some more little itty bitty arms. This is really a good book. It's all done. Book 4 that I'm working on right now is called The Vicious Velociraptor Venture. I don't know if you remember velociraptors. They were in that movie called Jurassic Park. There's a new Jurassic Park coming out this summer. Book 5 is the Sticky Stegosaurus Saga. Book 6, the Slippery Spinosaurus Splat. Book 7, the Amazing Apatosaurus Affair. And book 8, the biggest dinosaur of them all, the Titanic Titanosaur's Quest. Big dinos, big stories, big fun today reading to you. Thank you for your time. Don't forget to read something every single day. I'll be watching. Me and James at Pick and Shovel and Diggy all say goodbye.